Hi everyone, I'm Jensen here. Today we're going to share with you one classic example of how we can apply many of the productivity management techniques that we've learned in this particular course with a case example of how I actually make use of it to solve a painful process of handling module registration appeals from students in my previous company. And this particular project has been done. Obviously, the credit doesn't just go to me, it goes to the whole team itself in coming up with this solution and solving this problem. And you will see for yourself how many of the things that we learn, particularly in the A3 reporting problem segment and the solution segment, some of the techniques that we have taught you in the course, how it actually manifests into the process of which we identify and gain deep clarity about what is the problem, and then using it to design solution to solve it. So without further ado, let me just run through with you this particular context of this particular project. Is about my role as a mission critical project manager, managing a team of 11, trying to actually manage the module registration systems of NUS. And this particular project, actually through the team effort, we were able to get really good results. And we submitted these for National Quality and Innovation Conference competition, as well as International Quality Control Circle competitions. And this project actually won quite a fair number of accolades from those platforms that we actually submitted to. Okay, so without further ado, let me just share with you a bit of the context of the problem. First, NUS, during that time, I was managing this centralized online module registration system. The system is responsible for ensuring that more than 20,000 students can register for their modules in the beginning of the semester. So as you could imagine, if the systems fail, it has a very big problems to the university entire operation, because many students wouldn't be able to start their modules. So we definitely must make sure that the modules get allocated to the students in a timely fashion, so that when the semester starts, they can start the module accordingly. Of course, when the students during the process, when they try to get the module through a bidding system, they couldn't get the module, then naturally they will file an appeal. So this project is mooted because there were a lot of students who are feeling very frustrated when they're filing for appeals. The appeals are taking too long time to actually handle them. The admin who were handling the appeal was also sometimes in a confused stage, having a lot of challenges understanding what this appeal is about, or maybe this appeal is actually not relevant to them and they have to route it to other people. So there was a lot of routing, a lot of frustration, a lot of anger, both from the students and the faculty admin. So the project was mooted because this mooted by one of the faculty admin being the sponsors, highlighting to us that if we do not handle this appeal well, then we won't be really satisfying our eventual customer, which is students, and making sure that they have a pleasant registration experience. So because it was sponsored, I mean, it wasn't say it's sponsored, I would say that the faculty, one of the faculty admin raised this issue, and I, being the project manager of this mission critical systems, I raised it up to my boss, which is the chairman of this module registration committee, to ask her to give us her blessing so that we could actually work with the faculty admin to actually improve the productivity of how we handle appeal. So first stop, we need to understand the problem. So what we do is we took a lot of effort to try to understand from the student perspective, how do they view appeals. So here we collected at the end of each multi-registration systems, as well as we actually have a logging mechanism within our system to actually track. So what we do is that we decided to find ways that we can collect voices of our customers, in this case, the students. We throw out survey questions, and tens of thousands of students actually replied to that particular survey. We asked them, given each appeal, what is their perceived turnaround time. As you can see from this diagram on the left, the different type of module appeals that goes into different color shading, you can see that the perceived turnaround time by students hover around greater than 1 day to less than 3 days. Okay, of course, there are some that's greater than 3 days. And then on the other one, on the other end, we ask them if what would be the desired turnaround time for you. So you can see it naturally gravitate towards between 1 to 2 days. Whereas you can see we have actually almost 50%, right, close to 50% of those appeals are actually handled greater than 2 days. So the analysis of this data collected from the survey allow us to understand that the perceived turnaround of appeal is roughly less than 3 days. All those that's less than 3 days, more than 80% of the students feeling that way. And the desired turnaround time appeal is actually less than 2 days, because there's greater than 80% of the students state that I want it to be less than 2 days. So with that as a starting point, we decided that first insight that we want to do is, as you can see, one is 3 days, one is 2 days. We set up a goal to say that let's try to see if we can reduce the perceived turnaround time by 30%. So that was the first insight from the student survey. The second one is actually we reach out to the faculty admin, quite a sizable number of them, and particularly those faculty admin that's dealing with large students populations, which is the typical faculty like engineering, arts and social science, and faculty of science. They are all having like 4,000 or 5,000 students per se. So what we do is we reach out to various of these large faculty admin, and we sit down with them and discuss with them what exactly are the pain points and the challenges that they face when they're dealing with appeal, and what would be the ideal, translating their voice into a metrics that we can actually use to measure. So for example, in this case, many of the faculty admin highlighted that it's very important that the system provide very meaningful and useful analysis of the cause appeal. So what we ask them is that, okay, so if do I hear you correct that you really want accurate and meaningful appeal data? Then they validated yes. So then we say, okay, then the measure is how many of those appeal that we routed to faculty admin are actionable appeal with appropriate problem analysis report. So as you can see, so on and so forth, various different voices of the faculty admin was being captured, and we translate into a specific measures. And with these measurements, we gain another insight. In this particular case, is another goal that we hope to achieve, which is shorten the time needed and effort involved in handling cross-faculty appeal. Because a lot of time, many of the faculty admin telling us that their own faculty, they have no problem dealing with those appeal because it's within their control. Immediately, if they see that it's a possibility of giving to the student, they immediately give it to the students. But for those that is routed by other faculty, that means the students of the other faculty wanting to take their modules, it takes a longer time for them to actually decide whether we should give this module to this students that's from another faculty. So there's a lot of negotiation, a lot of discussion with the other faculty before they can come to conclusion. So I think the idea here is to actually spend a lot of time on the cross-faculty appeal. So we wanted to see whether we can shorten the time and effort involved in dealing with this so that they can be more provisioned in handling the faculty-related appeal, which then they can clear it much faster, thus allowing us to reduce the perceived turnaround time from the student perspective. So with that, we actually came up with the problem, defining the problem. As you can see, we written out, although this is a report that we written out, submitted for the competitions, but in your A3, obviously you need to make it more graphic. And then looking at the graphics itself, you can quickly understand this. So you can see from the problem statement, we say the current appeal process is inefficient. 3 reasons why it is inefficient: because number one, the appeal submitted by the students are all over the place, means students in the midst of panic start to send all the appeals or duplicate appeals to multiple appeal category, and that take a lot of time and effort for the administrator to find that particular appeal so that it can be properly processed. There's also a worrying trend of increasing number of appeal received over a period of multiple semester. So it's if the faculty numbers remain the same, then the increased number of appeal will overwhelm them. So it's quite worrying. Third one is because the current appeal turnaround time in the academic year, we draw from the database, and we actually check from the time when the appeal is being received till the time where the appeal have an outcome. it actually from a database, and it computed the average, it actually took 2.81 days, right? And this is obviously insufficient and quite spot on in the sense that quite close to what is perceived by the students. Because of that, it's clearly insufficient to meet the requirements that set up by the students, that we need to do it in less than 2 days, right? And so then we came up with a business case, because we need to propose it to my boss. So in order to make sure that our boss understand that this is something that we really wanted to do, that will really value add to the students, especially in the process of module registration. So we wrote up a business case write-up to say that course appeal is one of the most critical service, which a touch point between students and administrator. If the number of appeals submitted every year increases, then the turnaround time will inevitably increase. And if the current administrative force remain the same, then we have to think of ways to improve the turnaround time of course appeal, so that we are able to improve the productivity. So based on this view, the view from the business indicate that our current process need to be improved, and this because handling appeal have been one of the most stressful work for the administrator, consequences of its inefficiency. So as a result, we came up with a goal. The goal of the project have threefold. One is to reduce the turnaround time to less than 2 days, to actually review all the appeal types so that it eliminate the issue of confounding submissions, so students don't in the midst of panic send to too many appeals and resulting in overproductions and over processing waste. So to ensure the creation of useful and actionable appeal intelligence report that we can then use, so that they can improve the speed of which they process appeal. So these are the 3 goals that we set up to achieve. And as we do that, what we did is we start to create a prototype. We form a steering committee consisting of my technical team. So these are my technical 3 of us, with all the faculty admins actually represented here. We actually also asked the student union representative to be there, because they will provide us with the information whether certain of our interface or process change will help them or not. So we have both different party of faculty admins and students in the position to give us good feedback. And from there, we start to map out the current process, the as-is process of how appeal is being handled. As you can see, the high-level appeal process is listed here. We chose the process map over value stream map, because in this particular case, what we are looking at is actually the specific to the appeal process itself, and there's sometimes not easy to identify the value because of there's a various different appeal types that need to be handled. So we want to do it in a more generic manner, but that doesn't mean that the process we couldn't able to capture the cycle time. So even if with a process map, we were able to capture the cycle time of running through some of these processes, not all of them, but the missing data allow us to see what are the areas that we need to build into our system to collect those information. Okay, so with that, after we created the data prototype, what we did was that we actually use our existing system data to actually generate all these things. And after that, what we see here is, given these are all the different appeal types. As you can see from all the appeal types, one of the highest number of appeals that took up more than 4,000 appeals actually the H003. H003 is actually the others category. So not surprisingly, when the rest of the appeal couldn't fit into any of those established category, people will start to funnel it into others. It's like a rubbish bin, and it get collected quite substantially. So as we create a Pareto chart of it, we notice that actually H003, the others category, the module 007, module related appeal 007, and module related 005. If we solve these 3, we essentially would have easily solved close to 80% of the number of appeals. So in other words, if we improve the productivity of these 3, we would have be able to improve, even by a small percentage, a large productivity improvement in those aspects. So this is how we actually target that these are the 3 appeals that we're going to look at when we are doing root cause analysis. So with that, what we do is we discuss with the admin, we look at the previous one, then now we start to map out the potential appeal process of which, from a student perspective, as well as how the administrator is going to receive the appeal and process it. So we came up with a streamline diagram showing how the process mapped through. And after that, with the process map through, we identified using a fishbone diagram to be able to identify. I don't have it here, unfortunately, but we use a fishbone diagram to identify what are the causes of the inefficiency of the current processes. And then based on the root causes that we identified, we then map out the S2B process that is mapped out here. As you can see, this is the 2B process. And then with the 2B process, we are then able to see largely because the root cause as we identified, we actually be able to see what are the reasons why those root causes are causing those issues, and we try to mitigate those by implementing a solutions here. The solutions here are actually brainstormed through the committee that's listed here. As you can see, as we were trying to figure out the 2B process, we worked through a facilitated form where we list down a list of potential solutions that we can work on to actually address some of the root causes that was identified in the assist process. So we rank them, we list them down in detail. So after we list them down in details, there are 4 solutions altogether. We actually work with the faculty and the students to consider the pro and cons of each of these solutions. And with each of these solutions being properly identified, what we do is we try to make sure that the solution addresses all the confirmed root causes, the controllable root causes that we have identified using the fishbone diagram. And so with that, we actually can see how each of the solutions, as we brainstorm, these solutions are actually brainstormed with the committee, how it would attribute in solving a confirmed root cause. So 2 being fully resolved, 1 being partially resolved, and 0 means it doesn't resolve at all. So then we can actually create a tabulated numeric value for each of the solution on how much they are able to solve all the controlled root causes. And once that's done, we can see that in this particular case, the high favorite is implementing solution A, which is using SharePoint. In this case, it's using SharePoint to help facilitate the implementation process. With that as an information, we throw it back to the committee again, and we have the evaluation, listed down all the evaluation, work with the committee to come up with a list of technical evaluation criteria. And after the criteria is being selected, right, has been identified, then what we do is we take the top 3 solutions, and we get these top 3 solutions, and we get everybody to vote. Which one of those solutions do you think it will from a scale of 1 to 5 be low in learning curve, for example? So if you strongly agree, then you'll put 5. Then we do the average of them, or the medium of doing that. Then after that, we tabulate it out, and we can see that the clear winner in this particular case is SharePoint. With that clear off, when we have the commitment and the consensus of the solutions and the problem from the committee, we then decide to start to create the actual prototype. So we develop the SharePoint solutions that allow the faculty admin to use as a way in which they can get useful intelligence about the appeal that's being submitted by the students, and then using this to process the appeal in a much faster way, and then after that going to the main system to actually update the system itself, right? And after with that, we actually started to collect information relating to how the results that we have done, like whether did we able to solve some of those challenges that we have identified earlier on. So you can see before that, we have a very high 4,000 appeals that's lie on the others, which is a take a lot of time and effort to actually process this. And so after we revamp the categories, you can see there are more refined categories. We have some of those others category, right, being spread over the more appropriate appeal categories, and you can see the numbers drop quite substantially from 4,000 all the way. The maximum that we have is about only 1,000 plus. And because it is spread out in a more distributed way, you can see that actually from the Pareto graph diagram, right, you can see that there's actually up to 5 before it hits close to 80%, versus the previous one, for the first 3 already hit closer to 80%. So with that, we start to compare the results of our implementation, the prototype that we have created, and roll out into the real semesters. You can see from a distribution perspective, it was initially when we run our improvement, the appeal days, the number of turnaround time for completing from the start of receiving the appeal to the end of concluding the appeal or getting an outcome for the appeal, right? It takes 2.81 days, but with the solutions that's implemented, we get it to 2.05 days. So we get an improvement of about 27%, which falls short only slightly to our target goal of 30%, but it's still, in our view, very impressive, just a tweak and discussion of finding the right problem accurately and administering the right solution gave us these results that we are able to reduce the turnaround time needed for managing appeal across the board. And we did a potential cost saving. So you think about it, that the faculty admin, as he was free up, because the appeal the appeal process has become more efficient, they're able to clear up more appeals. So and it takes shorter time to actually clear up every one appeal. We computed based on productivity for this particular faculty admin. He or she used to be able to clear this number of appeal. Now with the enhanced efficiency and productivity, he was able to clear more. And we do an average of the salary, given the average salary of faculty admin is this, and if we quantify that he has now an increased productivity of a certain percentage, what would be the cost saving for all these faculty admins that's out there working, handling thousands of appeal in handling module registration. And we came up with a figure based on that, about 100,000 Sing dollars. This particular project was not only validated by externally audited auditors to validate the results, but we sent it out for the International Convention of Quality Circle, which is actually the international level competition, and got a gold award, which is the highest accolade where you can get for productivity projects. Right, so I hope this particular sharing allow you to understand the rigor involved that we hope to develop into in connecting and work with the stakeholders to get consensus and buy-in on the problem that you want to solve. And then with that buy-in, you can then translate into working with them to define the goal of the particular project, and then actively involve them in the process of identifying the problem, finding the root causes to the problem, and with the finding of the root causes of the problem, then translating into brainstorming of solutioning. And with the solutioning, then we then design appropriate intervention with proper evaluation criteria, eventually be able to solve the problem, eventually involve to grow out the solutions, and then measure the impact of the solutions itself to reducing the problem that we're trying to solve in the beginning. So then with that, we show this is a way in which, in fact, this project, after we did it, we gained a lot of trust and credibility among the faculty admin that we can deliver awesome results to a problem that seemingly seems to be purely from an administrative perspective. We came up with IT solutions that could really improve the productivity of faculty admin who are handling thousands of appeals within a short period of time. So with that, thank you so much. I hope you find this particular project interesting for you and gave you some insight where you can take it and apply it into your project itself. So, okay, see you.